Hello there. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Analyst Survey Results Readout. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I am John Rockhold, VP Market Engagement at Spotlight, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my partner in crime on all things Analyst Survey.
Catherine Johnson. I'm a product marketing manager here at Spotlight. Thrilled to be here.
So, a couple housekeeping items to get out of the way up front. You will get a recording of this webinar, you'll get the slides, and you'll also get a link to the report version of this. Use the comments feature to add comments, ask questions along the way. We'll be watching those. We'll save Q&A for the very end. So, let's dive in. Let's not waste any time. Let's get into the results. First of all, let's level set on the methodology of the survey. I know some of you in the audience are repeat fans. Will there be a live guitarist in this version? Stay tuned, find out. But to level set on the survey itself, this year we had 175 analysts respond. Thank you to that crowd of analysts. Much appreciated. All those answers are anonymous, and I will explain more of that in a moment. This is the 7th year in a row that we've done this survey. And the survey was live from early June to just a couple weeks ago. So, in order to maximize candor and frankly to make it possible for some analysts to even take the survey, we make it 100% anonymous. Now, we are very careful, very rigorous in making sure that only industry analysts get their hands on the link, but this means we can't slice and dice the data by geography or firm size. But the upside that we receive from making it anonymous is huge. The analysts give us wonderful comments in the open-ended boxes. They take the survey and we get really, really rich data. There are 22 questions in total with some, branching logic. There are 6 open-ended soapboxes or open-ended questions, if you will. And all the questions are optional, allowing an analyst to, for a question that's not relevant for him or her, they can skip it. And every year we pledge to share the results with the community, and thrilled to be doing a webinar version of that this year. All right, so having spent a ton of time with the data and the responses, KJ and I have come up with these 3 key takeaways. First, analysts trust your customers more than your messaging. Any access to customers is a ninja move, but elite AR, elite engagement with analysts, allows analysts to have unscripted access to your customers. And we'll talk more about that as we get into this. Number 2, analysts and answer engines are looking for customer evidence in 2 different places. It's clear now more than ever that AR needs one system, BD marketing needs one system to orchestrate all of this. Number 3, analysts are publishing more ungated content than ever. It is time to read it, make use of it, to ask better questions. So these 3 takeaways will be our sections for the presentation. Looking forward to double clicking into each one. So first up, KJ, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Let's dive into the details. This year's survey had 2 sections that covered the topic of customers, vendors, customers, or end users, and we'll use those terms interchangeably today. One section focused on why customer understanding is important for analysts and how they like to get access to customers. And the second section was all about how well analysts think vendors understand their own customers. So that's all to say, brace yourselves. Early on in our survey, we asked analysts how important it was for them to understand the experience of a vendor's customers and what the benefits were for their research and evaluations of vendors. 94% of analysts said understanding vendors' customers is extremely or very important to their coverage. And within that 94%, more than half, 65% of analysts, actually just selected the extremely important. When we double-clicked into the benefits of customer understanding, 3 answers were selected by over 80% of analysts. Problem identification, or understanding the common issues or challenges faced by customers. firsthand accounts from customers who have interacted with the products or services in a real-world scenario, and validation or challenges to the claims made by vendors about their products or services. So end user understanding is crucial for analysts, and that understanding provides a variety of benefits to them. We give analysts a ton of opportunities to write out their thoughts across the survey. This quote sums it up nicely. There's a difference between interviewing customers ourselves and hearing from them from or with vendors. The benefit of direct communication is hearing real-life experiences, understanding the surprises and pain points, and seeing how it's sitting over time. So it's not that analysts necessarily want more customer material from vendors, but they want to hear from customers directly and without the vendor in the room. And I know that sounds scary, but we've got more data to back that up here in a minute that we'll see later. Okay, I told you guys to brace yourselves. We asked analysts, how often do you encounter inconsistencies between vendor claims and what their customers actually tell you? 61% of analysts, so 2 out of 3 analysts, said that they see inconsistencies often or very often. And actually, 100% of analysts said they encounter inconsistencies at some rate. So this question was a 5-point scale: very often, often, occasionally, seldom, never. And no one, not a single analyst, picked the response option that they never see inconsistencies. Trust me, we did a double take when we first saw this data. We know it's right. And as we said earlier, the survey is anonymous, so we get hot takes, spicy opinions. So here it is. Inconsistencies are everywhere. Vendors oversell and underdeliver. Okay, we double click again. When analysts do see these inconsistencies between vendor claims and customer experience, where do those gaps show up? Analysts said implementation complexity was the #1 spot that they see discrepancies. 81% of analysts selected that option. The next highest selection was capabilities, followed by ROI. Okay, so we covered why analysts need customer evidence, the benefits of it, the discrepancies between vendor marketing and actual user experience. Now we move into how well do analysts think vendors understand their own customers? And you guys, we're not out of the woods yet. 64% of analysts said vendors only have a moderately accurate understanding of their own customers. Separately, 26% said that vendors have a very or extremely accurate understanding of their own customers. And again, this was a 5-point scale. So overall, I'm glad to see the majority of analysts selecting that moderately accurate option, but this number here on the right should probably be a lot higher. More data to come, but in terms of how vendors can gain a better understanding of their customers, this was excellent advice from an analyst. Spend more time listening to customers than talking to them. Go beyond NPS and reference calls. Establish a continuous customer feedback loop. Vendors that combine customer insights with independent market research and analyst feedback are typically better positioned. Now, we asked which sources analysts trust most for getting this customer perspective. This was a select all that apply question. Access to customers at vendor events led at 79%, 16 percentage points ahead of the next highest answer, which was surveys, followed by inquiries. Joint vendor and customer briefings was selected by 37% of analysts. That option's kind of there in the middle of the graph, and we have more data on that option in particular here in 1 second. But this is all to say that analysts trust humans and real conversations. So these top 3 highest sources of trust: access to customers at events, surveys, and inquiries. These are direct sources of conversation or data from end users that analysts prefer and trust most. So we asked analysts directly, how much better would vendor engagements be if they brought a customer along to a briefing? 65% of analysts said briefings would be much or somewhat better. if vendors brought a customer along. 12% of some grumpy analysts in here said the briefings would be somewhat or much worse. So we're not exactly sure what happened there. But I think at the end of the day, face-to-face interaction is the best way to give analysts access to your customers. And if you can do that at an event and in a way that's unscripted or unchaperoned, that's even better. As a reminder, no required questions here in this survey, and we asked an open-ended question: what's your honest advice to vendors to achieve better customer understanding? And we got 93 individual unique responses from analysts, and these ranged from how analysts prefer to speak with end users themselves to how vendors can just learn more from their customers. And there were 3 very clear themes kind of across all of these open-ended responses. So 1, trust your customers to talk to analysts alone. Unscripted access is how you build and earn that trust. This quote is great. I would prefer to connect with customers without the vendor on the call. The overly curated and planned conversations with only supremely happy customers is not valuable. 2, learn from your unhappy customers, interview those lost prospects, churned customers, inactive users, skeptical frontline employees, and internal blockers. And 3, sounds easy, listen, drop the ego. The best vendors are the ones that listen to the tough feedback. One more quote here. Industry analysts are the best way for you to understand your customers and meet their needs. Needs should drive product rather than product driving need. With that, John, over to you. Where are we going next?
Thank you, KJ. So this idea of analysts and answer engines looking in 2 different places. I don't know if this is a paradox, if this is quantum physics, if this is just par for the course in 2026, but we see this in our own data and we see this through outside data as well. There is something going on where the robots, if you will, and the analysts are both looking to different places, but yet it's all connected, and yet it's also, at the end of the day, all human. So let's get into it. Let's sidestep just for a minute out of our survey data into some outside data. And some of these stats, no doubt you've heard, but many of these stats I think you probably just can't hear enough. So to give context on what's going on in the buyer journey, in B2B marketing, in analyst relations, in terms of how authority is manifesting in LLMs, your ChatGPTs, your Geminis, your Claudes, etc. We're now at a point where just a titch more than half of buyers, software buyers, are starting their search in a chatbot as opposed to Google. Within CMOs, it's 68% starting with an answer engine. And at some point in the journey, buyers are using these tools, 94% of them, as a matter of fact. So this data comes to the great folks at G2, Winter, and 6 Sense. I wanted to use this to level set and just to remind everybody of what's going on in the background here. So we asked the analysts, how has generative AI changed your conversations with buyers? And for 34% of the analysts, not really much so far. Okay, but let's keep digging into that data. Nearly 1 in 3 analysts are saying buyers are not asking about vendors that they should be asking about because they're using LLMs, AI, to accelerate to a short list. 1 in 4 analysts say buyers are citing AI output as equal to analyst output, right to their faces. And 1 in 5 analysts are saying buyers arrive with a short list that they hope they want the analyst to pressure test, poke at, validate, call BS on, or validate. So why does this matter? Well, speaking of short lists, we asked the analysts, and don't we wish we all could get more data on this? Well, we're here to tell you that 58% of analysts are talking short lists with their clients, your would-be buyers, on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So for all the people that say analysts are doomed, they're not. And they are still holding court with your prospects, your buyers, your clients and would-be clients, and giving advice, giving perspective. So 1 in 4 are talking shortlist weekly, and nearly 1 in 3 are having those chats monthly. So just let it be known that this is still something that happens. And you all know the impact that just one of those conversations can have a year, a quarter. So these conversations matter a great deal. And just a little bit more context for you on this data. This was a branching question in the lexicon of surveys. So if an analyst said, I don't cover vendors, this is not part of my world, they branched to a different section of the survey. So everyone who answered here covers vendors, speaks about vendors. All right. And we asked, where does that customer understanding that is so important to you as an analyst, where does that manifest? Where does it show up? And 66% of analysts said it manifests in those conversations with buyers. That was the number one pick. It makes the context about your customers, makes them smarter about vendors during those conversations with your would-be buyers. So, what's going on here? Analyst trust is not the same as what engines trust, or is it? I teased this at the start. Let's look again at the sources analysts trust most. KJ had this data earlier, but what they can verify directly is the theme here. Customers at vendor events, surveys, inquiries, and then the partners who speak on behalf of you all. That's all direct or just one step side of direct. The answer engines, we see this over and over again. The answer engines seek authority, humanity. The answer engines love analyst content. The challenge is it has to be ungated. So the reprints of the Wave and the MQ and such that are out there, the analyst firms are visible in the search, in the LLMs, in the answer engines. But what's even more visible, what's even more cited, even more reliable by those robots, things like G2, customer communities at Reddit, LinkedIn, and Gartner. But wait, it's not quite so simple. Gartner ranks pretty well in this data, citation data, mentioned data, but when you dig into it, the vast majority of it is Gartner Peer Insights. If you don't know, Gartner's section of the business that is software reviews from real buyers, real customers. The vast majority of Gartner's credibility, visibility in answer engines comes from that, not the traditional research from analysts. So, KJ, back to you. What is going on with ungated content?
Thanks, John. That was great. It gets more exciting from here, honestly. And this is where we asked analysts about their thoughts on generative AI, how it's impacting their work, and how much content they're putting in front of a paywall to get a little bit more into some of those things that John mentioned. And this is also where we have some of our best year-over-year data, which is always exciting. Okay, like the previous slide suggests, and like John's been alluding to, analysts are sharing more of their thinking publicly than ever before. For the past 3 years, we've asked analysts how their output of content that does not require a license to access has changed. So think blog posts, LinkedIn posts, or articles in an industry publication. The number of analysts who are increasing their ungated content has climbed every year for 3 years. 38% in 2024 and 45% today. The number of analysts decreasing the amount of content they have in front of a paywall, a smaller portion, 5% of analysts. Those staying about the same is 46% of analysts. And those who do not publish ungated content is also a smaller portion here at 4%. Something worth calling out here is not every firm gates content the traditional way that a Forrester or Gartner does. So for those who are saying I'm doing about the same amount of ungated content, they could be coming from a very different starting point compared to other firms. And again, anonymous survey, so we don't have a great way of figuring out who falls into that bucket. And I saw some questions in the chat about what firms might have been in this survey sample, and we'll get to those at the end. I think we can speak to it a little bit. The main call out here, though, is that nearly half of analysts are increasing the amount of content that anyone can get access to. So it's important that our AR strategies take that into account. It's easier than ever before to figure out what analysts are thinking about and writing about. Analysts are publishing more ungated content than ever before, but why? And this might be one of my favorite questions from this year's survey. 81% said because they want to promote their important and strategic ideas. This answer is 20 percentage points ahead of the next one, because my firm allows or encourages it. And then again, another nearly 20-point drop to because I want to drive more readers to my gated reports. And by the way, last year, only 50% of analysts selected that they wanted to promote their important and strategic ideas through ungated content. So I think it's very clear that in a world of AI slop, analysts really want to get their ideas out there and in front of real people. And this is also a select all that apply question. 41% of analysts said that they want the robots to ingest their content and recognize their expertise. So while feeding the machines, I don't think that's why analysts are publishing ungated content in front of a paywall, but I think a lot of them definitely count it as a benefit. Okay, we know the analysts are publishing more ungated content and why, but where is it going? What are the preferred channels? 96% said LinkedIn. And then huge gap here, 40 percentage points. Huge gap behind that is a personal or firm blog. And then another nearly 30-point gap later is a business or trade publication. So this is good news for everyone. Analysts are more active on LinkedIn. And SEMrush in their research found that LinkedIn accounts for 11% of AI citations. Profound says LinkedIn is the most cited domain for B2B queries in particular. So LinkedIn it's a win-win location for analysts, vendors, LLMs alike. If you're not watching your analysts on LinkedIn, it is time for you to tune in. And I wouldn't be doing my job as a product marketer here at Spotlight. I'll quickly mention, if you haven't heard about Spotlight Oz, it's got great tools that help you do exactly this and keep up with what your analysts are saying and doing on LinkedIn. So ask us about it. Okay. We know analysts are publishing more ungated content. Why? Where it's going. We had a lot of great verbatims from analysts on this topic. It's how I fight back against AI-generated slop that pervades every nook and cranny of social media networks. And again, the practical implication for analyst relations professionals is that more published content gives you a specific point of view, an idea, an opinion, or perspective to ask an analyst about and to learn from. And while it seems like at least some analysts are taking AI into consideration, they're posting on these platforms that answer engines trust, and they openly admit that they want AI to recognize their expertise, not all analysts agree. One analyst put it really plainly here. AI is going to kill the analyst and analyst relations job, and we're handing it the weapons it needs to kill us. Now, last year's survey, we simply asked if analysts were using generative AI and how. This year's survey, we had much more detailed and pointed questions. So let's dive into this further and see what's going on. We asked analysts if they have reviewed what answer engines say about the technology markets that they cover. 89% answered yes. That's nearly 9 out of 10. And if they answered yes, then we asked them to rate the quality of insights from answer engines versus their own work or their firm's work. 69% said the answer engine output is somewhat or much lower quality. It's generic, thinly sourced, short on specificity. But 31% said the output from LLMs is comparable or better than their own output. And within that, there's 18% that say it's actually somewhat higher or much higher quality than their own output. So analysts are human, they're checking what AI has to say, and I think this data captures the tension of what we're all seeing in this industry right now. The research firms are upping their game, they're making their own answer engines and chatbots. A lot of people are wondering if analyst firms are still relevant, but there's clearly a pretty close 7 out of 10 analysts here who don't think they're going anywhere and they're not going down without a fight. So we still need to do AR. We asked analysts one final question in our survey. This was the question we left them with. Do you think answer engines make your work more influential? And the result was nearly split down the middle. 45% said yes and added commentary like, yes, answer engines see us as experts to trust. 55% said no, they don't make their work more influential, and added, answer engines put a huge damper on everyone's influence. Doesn't mean we stop creating content and driving influence, we just get a lot less credit for it. And one final quote here that I think reminds us that these things are changing so quickly. There is considerable flux. AI engine optimization and analyst research is a work in process. Ask me next year and I may have a better answer. And we'll for sure ask them next year, won't we, John? So
Yes, we will.
take us home.
Yeah, that last quote is so good to put a bow on that section. I mean, while I would respectfully disagree with the analyst that says AI is going to kill analysts in AR, I do think that there's no doubt the research firms have to evolve their offering and how they operate and how content is engaged and ingested and all that. But the need for expertise, the need for humanity is never going to go away. And as I teased earlier, the way this ecosystem works between customers, analysts, buyers, robots, it's an ecosystem and it all connects to each other. But let's get back to this idea of what vendors are leaving on the table. We teased it in the headline of this show, the 25-point gap. And while I can tell you that my Kansas Jayhawks basketball team fears no 25-point gap, I can tell you that this 25-point gap should be something that AR pros and all B2B marketers take heed of. So, what do we need to do about it? What's going on here? First, this year, a question we've asked for 4 years running. Analysts, do you experience vendors as, and there's a variety of options, right? 91% of analysts say they experience vendors as eager to influence the analysts. That eagerness to influence. 66% of analysts said they experience vendors as eager to learn from analysts. It's this opportunity to learn that's what's being left on the table. Even I can do this math, that's a 25 percentage point gap. And bad news, that 66% is flat over the years, and that 91% is rising. So let's look at that. 4 years of, as the cool kids would say, longitudinal data. Here it is from 2023 up until this year. You can see the blue is eager to influence. The yellow is eager to learn. That eager to learn, basically flat. That eager to influence, up 11 percentage points over this time frame. We also ask analysts, do you experience vendors as transparent? Because transparency is a key part of learning. And that number is also headed in the wrong direction, if you will. It is rising over this time period. So you might be thinking 66%, not so bad. Okay, maybe, but that gap is widening. Your interest in learning is getting outpaced by your interest in influencing. Vendors are getting louder, but not more curious. And if you're not asking analysts questions about your market, about your buyers, about your customers, you're leaving something on the table. So, your humanity matters more than ever. To level up, you got to learn. And let's talk about 3 changes that you can make today, tomorrow. 3 changes that I would argue can be done with no budget increases, no additional subscription costs, can be done with just a new effort, new mentality. Meditate and try these things. Number 1, stop curating. Stop trying to put nothing but your 5-star, gold star, best customers in front of the analysts. Don't be afraid to engage them with customers that are in flight, that have had ups and downs and all around. Don't be afraid to show off some 4-star reviews. I recently had Russell Rothstein, the CEO of PeerSpot, tell me that 4-star reviews are actually higher performing, more credible than 5 stars, because a 5-star just kind of, it just seems like there's too much gloss there. So don't be afraid to engage analysts with your customers that maybe are not completely evangelical about everything. That will gain you more credibility with the analysts than you can possibly imagine. Number 2, one system. You need one system to harmonize across all those pools, all those sources, your customer reviews, the communities like Reddit, the analysts themselves. You need one system to create consistency and harmonize. And we call that influence orchestration. And let me emphasize, I try to do this every chance I get. For all the hype about AI and robots and LLMs, at the end of the day, humans are your best tactic to improve your visibility. The machines trust humans. The machines go find humans, authentic customers, authentic experts. In a delicious twist of fate, the machines read human content, authentic, authoritative content, to answer questions for humans. So, takeaway number 3, key tactic to do right away. As we talked about earlier, holy smokes, Batman, there is more public content out there than ever. And some firms are all in on nothing but public content. But many of the big 3 and the bigger firms, traditional firms that have had everything behind a paywall for decades, are now doing more and more publicly, ungated, free to access. As KJ teased, if you're not following your analyst on LinkedIn, it's time to start. And it gives you more opportunities to engage with them without an inquiry, without access, without subscription. Comment on a post, send them a DM, give it a high five. You have more options than ever to engage with the analysts without a subscription. All right, those are 3 changes to start ASAP. I'm gonna try something different this year, something new. Dun, dun, dun. Let me do this quote first though. You get out what you put in. I love this quote from this analyst. You get out what you put in. Too often it feels like they expect us to be performing monkeys without sharing anything. It's very difficult to tailor advice if they won't even brief you. And one more from the analysts. Get clear how the relationship between analyst relations, product marketing, strategy, competitive intel, and the other teams can work to benefit all. Too often, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, with analysts leaving value on the table for both sides. All right, I got a little ahead of myself. I'm so excited about these predictions. So I'm gonna try this, and I'll have no shame in coming back to these and seeing if I am right or wrong a year from now. So, prediction number 1. I think that 25-point gap will unfortunately persist, but perhaps not for the reasons you might be thinking. I actually think both numbers, eager to influence and eager to learn, will go down a little bit. Because I think the eager to influence will go down because AR pros will be more stretched across more experts, more channels than ever before. So I think the individual analyst will feel a wee bit less influence eagerness. And then the other thing, learning. I think vendors are gonna still be stretched, and it's hard to find enough hours in the day, right, to do those inquiries so that you learn. Also see, I don't have any data on this yet, but I see it. It's real. I know an increasing number of vendors are nervous, curious about what happens to my conversations with analysts via inquiry. Does it go into the hive mind of that research firm's LLM, generative AI model? Does it not? And I would encourage the analyst firms to be more vocal about how that works, how it doesn't work. I need to bang that drum over and over again because humans, we will be paranoid about, well, if I do go to the inquiry and I do bring you a customer who isn't 5-star, but has great observations, great takeaways, is that going to inform your model? Is that going to leak out into your data? Something that the analyst firms could do a better job of clarifying and speaking to with all their customers, not just vendors. So I think the 25-point gap persists, but again, perhaps not for the same old reasons. All right, prediction number 2. I think that 2 of our 45s will cross 50. The 45% of analysts who think that their research is more influential because of LLMs, I think that will cross 50. And I think that we're also going to see that the idea of ungated content, I do this as a priority, that will also cross 50. And last but not least, prediction number 3. Because of all these things that are happening with AI, inconsistencies will get easier to catch. it will be harder than ever to hide inconsistencies. And so I think that 61% of analysts who say that they run into gaps between what vendors tell them and what customers say from the trenches of reality, I think that will scratch towards 70% who see that very often. All right, those are the predictions that we're going to revisit a year from now. Looking forward to asking those questions of the analysts again and seeing how it all turns out. So let's look at some questions.
Yeah, and John, let's start off. We've got a couple in here that touch on some of the same things. So, a couple here on if we can highlight how many analyst firms we think are covered in these outcomes. Another one asked, can we confirm that at least some analysts were from the big three? And yeah, just want to emphasize again, it is anonymous. We don't have any secret data to identify anything, but we can give you a pretty good guesstimate.
Yeah, great question. I'm glad it was asked. Probably no surprise, but many analysts are so kind as to say, I took it, confirmed, or even to offer us constructive criticism on the survey itself. So we always appreciate that. We always love it. But I can tell you confidently from those who said, hey, I took it, or hey, here's some feedback about your survey, we have at least 22 research firms represented in the data. And yes, absolutely, the big three is in there in troves. Now, what is the big three these days? That's a whole different conversation. But the big dogs, the classic traditional firms are in there, as well as the up-and-comers and everything in between. 22 firms at least.
Okay, great question from Jack here. Do we have a sense of how often analysts want to meet with customers?
I think that the average analyst would tell you 3 to 4 times a year. Now, that's at a macro general level to medium specific level. Would they take micro moments more often? Of course they would. But I think reality would somewhere be most feasible of, 2 to 3, maybe 4 times a year. But also will tell you they'll take whatever they can get. 1 time a year, twice a year, they'll take what they can get. But I think if you're thinking about the size of the information, the scope of the conversation, the more specific it is, those should be drip, drip, bite size. The bigger the context, twice a year, once a year.
Okay, another great question here from Sarita. How is Profound and other tools scraping LinkedIn as it's a member-only community? And yeah, John, wonder if we can just speak to this broadly with LinkedIn's gated nature.
Yeah, LinkedIn has exploded in terms of mentions, citations, visibility, and that's because LinkedIn is, allowing the robots, if you will, in for certain contexts, for certain cases. So it's a LinkedIn partnership with OpenAI, with Anthropic, etc. As also, it's you can choose to make your posts public. So I think that also opens the door to a host of LinkedIn content that the user has flagged, make this public to anyone, which would in theory include the robots. But this is a recent change, past 6-ish months, where LinkedIn has gone from very much not visible in the LLMs to major league visible.
Okay, and great question here from Andre. Given the increased importance of authoritative content for LLM training, what does this mean for the non-big three firms? Should vendors be investing into research by smaller firms to have some sort of market validation when the big three branding is not available?
Absolutely. Andre, great to see you. Great to hear this question. Thank you. Yes. The rise of visibility, the new era of influence allows smaller firms, medium-sized firms to be more visible than ever before. You don't have to have that backdrop, that big logo behind you as an analyst to be as authoritative, as visible as you once did years ago. So my encouragement is for vendors to look at which analysts, which experts, which influencers have the most authority, most expertise, most relevance for me. And yes, that will still surface plenty of analysts from the so-called big three, but moving forward, that analyst that you really respect at, I'm making this up randomly, RedMonk, is going to have more visibility than ever, and there's less reason to say, well, sorry, you don't work at Gartner, I just can't engage with you or I can't spend time with you. I think it's democratizing influence in a way that we haven't seen ever before.
Okay, I think that's covered it for the Q&A. And if we're missing any questions, send them to us. But I think that wraps it for questions, John.
Sweet. Well, just once again, thank you. Shout out to all the analysts who took the survey. I know there's a few probably attending today to see the results. We really appreciate the time and energy you put into the survey, and to all of you for attending the webinar. And let's close it out with a few calls to action.
Yep. Yeah, like John said, thanks so much for joining us. The support we've gotten this year has been pretty overwhelming between the analysts who contributed their time and took our survey, and then everyone who registered for the webinar and joined us today. Thank you, thank you. And we went through a lot today. Believe it or not, there's still more data, more insights, and it's in our full report. So you can access this now. It's not gated. Feel free to share it with anyone who might find it interesting, and let us know what you think. We've got a QR code up here in the corner for you, so you can scan that real quick with your phone, and we can also drop a link into the chat. Okay. One more thing to leave everyone with. You all saw that 30% stat that John shared. Don't let it happen to you. We'll run a free AI assessment for you and share the findings with you. Seeing what AI knows about you and where it's getting it from is really the first step to building that single system that helps you understand and orchestrate your influence across all those sources. So again, updated QR code up here in the corner for you. And with that, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all.